We appreciate you being here today. And actually, a day like this shows how important our challenges are. Because even though it was getting warmer outside, we see that folks need help outside, inside, and everywhere. With housing, with wraparound services, and Kansas City government, as well as our many partners, are committed to doing that. The first reason we're here today is to celebrate some of the folks who over the last year have stepped up tremendously. There are a lot of challenges over the last year. One of the most significant ones is making sure people have a place to go, have a place to get COVID tested, now COVID vaccines, have a place to sleep, have a place to sign up for stimulus checks, have a place to do so much. And every day, organizations like Hope Faith, like Restart, like so many others, work to make our community better and stronger. So I first want to start with recognizing Jason Van Sickle, who's doing work right now. Come on up and speak for a minute, sir, and then I'll come back and talk about Kansas City services.
First off, thank you, Mayor Lucas. It's funny that this weather is the way it is, because we were feeling really nostalgic, because this was exactly the way it felt and looked last year when we opened up this village behind us. Everyone always kind of joked about what gave us this date, and I said it was literally the Amazon Prime delivery date of when we were going to get the tents. And it's been amazing. The whole homeless agency community came together. We put together this amazing village behind us, and we just want to thank all the media as well for continuing to tell the story about making sure that even in the midst of a pandemic that we serve the community, and we are forward facing. We cannot do this through a phone. We cannot do this through a TV screen. So it was very important for people to know that my staff, first and foremost, stood the front line during this whole pandemic, right out behind my shoulder here, and we continue to do it. And today monuments that 1-year anniversary of standing that front line and serving those who can't serve themselves at times. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. A few things that we're excited and ready to announce today for Kansas City government. First, I wanted to start with the fact that how we address homelessness, how we address housing, affordable housing, isn't just one step. But us saying it's not just one step doesn't mean that we defer our responsibility and just talk about long-term planning. We're working every day, and we're working right now to make sure that we can get people access to affordable housing, to make sure that we can help people who are transitioning from experiencing homelessness to getting job opportunities and housing opportunities. And more than anything, that the way that we address some of our challenges, like making sure people have access to services, isn't from necessarily talking about enforcement, but it's instead talking about opportunity. In Kansas City, we continue to have emergency rental assistance funding, and we encourage anyone who needs assistance with emergency rental assistance to call 311, or for those who have access to the internet, you can go to kcmo.gov/renthelp. Today, the Kansas City, Missouri City Council will be voting on our budget, and there are a lot of things that have been cut from the budget. It's fair to say that it's an austerity budget. But thanks to the leadership of folks like Councilman Eric Bunch, Councilwoman Andrea Boo, you'll see that there is funding in our budget today to fully fund the Office of the Tenant Advocate, something that has been advocated for years. And I thank them for that and that leadership. And I think that's just one of our many steps to making sure that Kansas City is doing the work that it needs to do. In addition, myself, Councilwoman Raina Park Shaw, Councilman Eric Bunch, Councilwoman Andrea Boo, have introduced an ordinance to create a standalone housing department in Kansas City government. Housing is not an afterthought. For too long, we've given John Wood and his staff so many responsibilities. We've said, figure this out, figure that out. But what we haven't done is said, where are the resources? Where's the planning? Where's the long-term policy to make sure that we are matching people not just with homes, but with opportunity? That's why we're taking that important step, and that's why I hope we see full passage at City Council later on. In addition, you'll recognize that we have a homeless services task force, a houseless services task force. Over the weekend, we've continued important work in that area. Councilwoman Raina Park Shaw, in connection with Missouri State Representative Ingrid Burnett, have listened to the public. They've listened to those who are activists. They've listened to those who are experiencing homelessness and philanthropic organizations to make sure that we convene, that we work together to share information, but more than anything, to share opportunities. And based on the information that was gathered at the summit that was organized by Representative Burnett and Councilwoman Park Shaw, the Houseless Task Force will work with service providers to guarantee a few things. That everyone who needs space has it. Everyone who needs services, be it COVID vaccines, be it a place to sleep, be it job opportunities, be it a haircut, has it. And everyone who needs it knows the Kansas City government and the organizations we work with are building opportunities for all. I also just got off a call with our regional administrator for the Federal Emergency Management Agency about how we can make sure that as we're looking at our vaccine distribution, it's not just about having events. Those are important. But it's also, and something I have to commend Jason and our Hope Faith Services staff on doing, making sure that folks have access to COVID vaccines. Something that we're committed to, something that FEMA's committed to, something that makes sure that we are treating everyone with the dignity that they deserve. The task force and our partners will continue to work with the city manager's office, our Data KC office, and others to also connect those who are experiencing homelessness to services. We recognize that it is not enough that we say something on television, that we put something online, and that we have a phone. There are a lot of folks that are walking around every day. That's why I'm proud of us. Make sure that we have, this is an exceptional thing that you have done at Hope Faith Services. Talking about bus routes, picking up people, making sure they can get access to opportunities. I had the opportunity to be a small part of that when we had our warming center at Bartle Hall. I drove some people from Bartle Hall here to Hope Faith. And I know there are so many people that find themselves in need of help. We need to make sure it is obvious and apparent. We're making sure we're putting up flyers in stores throughout Kansas City. We're creating more handouts. We're making sure that people know where they can get access to opportunities. And when I look at people like Stephanie Boyer, like Jason Van Sickle, I know they make sure that those opportunities are available as well. Something else we're asked about by a lot of people. They're saying, what are you doing to make sure that those who are experiencing homelessness, they may be in a camp, of which there are more than probably about 170 in Kansas City. They may be staying on a couch. They may not know where they're sleeping tonight. What are you doing to make sure they have services? We've spent millions of dollars this year, millions, and we'll spend a lot more. And we'll make sure it's spent well to make sure that people have opportunities. Last time we convened to share resources for tenants, we met outside of Journey to New Life on Truce. Journey to New Life has 30 beds available each night and received $100,000 from Kansas City government for their shelter operations. Restart has 170 beds and has received $75,000 recently from Kansas City government. We need to find more. We need to get more. We'll be debating $97.5 million of stimulus funds in a few weeks. We need to make sure we're using that to give people opportunities, to stand with our nonprofit partners, and we will stand with you. And while not city funded, City Union Mission has stepped up and is offering 100 additional beds on top of their standard 75 per night. Each client will receive a case manager and assistance in the trajectory of their job search and other long-term recovery programs. The city's also partnered with women's shelters, including Rosebrook, Synergy Services, New House, Hope House, and so many others. So this is why we're here today, not just to make you be cold, not just make you listen to us. We care, and we care about building opportunities. And we care about not just deferring those answers for next year, next month. We're not waiting for next winter to step up. We're looking at our opportunities now. We need to change how we address everything in housing. And I hope rather you see it as us fully funding the Office of Tenant Advocate, stepping up on our commitment to provide services to those who are unhoused, helping to build transitional housing, something that I know John worked on in connection with our project over on Truce. Kansas City government is committed to making a difference not just for this city, but for this region. If you know someone who's experiencing homelessness, we are committed to finding a place for them, not just to sleep, but to receive services, to be able to change and make a difference in their lives. And we're going to continue that commitment as time goes on. I'll come back at the end to answer questions, but now I'll introduce our city manager, Brian Platt.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're really excited to be here today to announce some bold and transformative initiatives that are going to go a really long way to serve our most vulnerable families and our most vulnerable populations across the city. I'll just briefly touch on a couple of them that we're announcing today. One of them is our initiative to transform land bank properties into homes for those without homes, houses for those without houses, and to rehabilitate long-time blighted properties. So our plan is to sell over 100 different vacant and abandoned homes for $1, provided that the new property owners eliminate all blight from that property, that they fully rehabilitate and renovate those properties and that they make those properties available for anyone who is in need of housing and for those in the lowest income brackets across our city. We hope that this will provide housing for those who are most in need, and that will serve to increase the supply of housing that is often the top of the list when we talk about what are the biggest challenges when we're addressing homelessness and affordable housing and the needs of families across this city. We're also announcing our intent here to add hundreds of additional new affordable housing units. We have a Barney Alice Plaza project renovation that we're currently just beginning the design process for. We're looking at this parking deck and a significant requirement of financial investment, and realize that if we're going to be spending a lot of city resources, we should get something out of it, some sort of public benefit that will serve more than just those who are driving and parking in the city. We think this is an excellent opportunity for us as a city to show the city and show the country and show the world how we can transform public assets into something that serves those who are most in need. We think this is going to become an example, a case study for those across the country that can turn city property into affordable housing units for those who need it the most. The mayor has also touched on, of course, this new housing department, and I'll let some of the others here, I guess, maybe talk more about that and the intention of that. But, you know, I'll echo what the mayor says there, that this is a long overdue focus on staffing and resources to make sure that we're addressing all of our challenges here. We've had a lot of discussions with all of us here over the last couple of weeks and months about what we can and should be doing to address our unhoused populations and serve them better. And one of the biggest things that comes up in those discussions is we need to allocate staff, dedicated staff, to make sure that we have a point person be handling these things, that we're developing and drafting the right policies, and that we're coordinating with all of our partners. The last thing that I want to mention is I think that we'd all be remiss if we didn't give great thanks to our nonprofit partners, agencies like Hope, Faith, and Restart, and all of the volunteers that helped us through one of the coldest winters in history here. We opened up Bartle Hall in response to an incredible increase in need for space and overnight warming facilities. The pandemic has, of course, exacerbated the challenges there, and also our COVID restrictions made our existing facilities reduce capacity because of social distancing requirements. We couldn't have gotten through all of this without the dozens and probably over 100 volunteers that came out through the night to help us make sure that we were providing a good service there. But there are also nonprofit partners and other organizations that are doing this work day in and day out. And you can see the work being done behind us here. This city could never provide the services that we do without these partners. So I do want to give a lot of thanks to them as well. Thank you.
Mr. Wood.
Good afternoon. My name is John Wood, Neighborhood and Housing Services Department. My role here today is to talk a little bit about the dollar program for the land bank properties. The city manager and the mayor both have alluded to that program. There will be a request for proposal out on the street. Essentially, what we're looking for are developers, nonprofit service providers, faith-based organizations, and/or individuals who have a place in their heart for housing the unhoused. And so this RFP is $1. The homes will be sold for $1 as is, plus closing costs. And as part of this process, we're also doing a lot of tremendous outreach with nonprofit organizations, as well as neighborhood associations and neighborhood leaders, to ensure that they have some input into what these houses should look like in terms of providing the services for the unhoused. So by doing that, what we plan to do is on April the 1st, from 6 o'clock p.m. to 7:30 p.m., we will have a sort of an open house, if you will, on Microsoft Teams as well as in person, and to have input from these neighborhood organizations about the dollar program. We want input from them. We want to get information from them in terms of what their expectations are regarding these homes and how folks would live there and how they would fit into their respective neighborhoods. That will be on Microsoft Teams. We will also we're going to also ask individuals who are interested in actually setting in as part of that process to have input in person, socially distanced, however, at 4400 Blue Parkway to RSVP by March the 30th to Neighborhood and Housing Services Department. at 4400 Blue Parkway again, and it'll be on the first floor. And we'll have up to 15 attendees, people who want to attend in person, to have input into that process. But you have to RSVP again by March 30th in order to do that with Neighborhood and Housing Services to participate. As I also indicated, we'll also be on Microsoft Teams virtually if you want to participate in that process. Again, this is for a nonprofit organization, quasi-governmental, and/or service providers who can afford to buy a house for $1, who can fix that property up, and also to be able to property manage, because we want to make sure that these properties are meeting our code standards, our healthy home standards, and so the property has to be maintained and provided again for people who are currently unhoused. So that's essentially what that program is all about, and how we hope to do outreach and get participation in this program.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Councilwoman Booth.
All right, thank you all for being here. I do not have a lot to add, but I do want to reiterate what the mayor said. And this council, this city has a dedication to establishing a housing department. And you may ask, why is that important? It is important to show this city's commitment, to not only to affordable housing, but to our unhoused citizens. We have a history sometime in local government to adopt policies, to state policies, but fail in the implementation. And this is our goal of dedicating resources, staff, and funding to ensure that we implement the policies that we adopt. And as we move forward, our last implementation or our adoption of policy was with the set-aside ordinance. And over the last few months, I've been working with our neighborhood or our stakeholders to ensure that we can implement that policy as well, and to build at the affordable and extremely affordable level. And we will continue to work on that as we grow the Housing Trust Fund. But we need the staff in our city to ensure that we can implement all of our housing policies. So thank you for being here, and just know that at least I, and I think many of my other colleagues, have a commitment to ensure that we meet the needs of our unhoused population, as well as those who are living in need of the extremely and affordable housing. Thank you very much.
Councilman Buck.
Thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for all the work that the numerous community partners here are doing. The Hope Faith Ministries, we go back a long way with some of the work that I used to do with Bike Walk KC and the bike shop here. Obviously homelessness was a very acute issue in Kansas City prior to COVID. I think that COVID really opened up the blind spot that we really had in regards to those in our community who are unsheltered, and it's I think eye-opening for many of us to realize just how far we have to go in order to not only end homelessness in Kansas City, but actually provide the services that are desperately needed for so many of Kansas Cityans. And so I'm here today simply to say that the city has got to be a better partner with you all. We need to be a centralized resource for those of you who are doing this really, really important, vital work in the community, to make sure that we as a city are doing everything we can to end homelessness and to provide services for those who are experiencing homelessness. So I'm sitting here to promising you that we're going to do that. And the first a lot of the things that we're doing have already been announced, so I'm not going to go too far into the details of those. But the first step is creating a standalone housing department, something that many of us, when we ran for council and mayor, really said housing was a top priority for us. This is one of the many steps we need to be taking in order to make housing central to the work that the city does. Another one that has been sort of touched on is using city property, city assets, as a way to open up more housing for people at all income levels. So
I'm going to be pushing hard for exploring the concept of social housing here in Kansas City. It's something that has not been done too much in the United States, and something that I think Kansas City has an opportunity to be a leader on. And so I think getting homes for people at all income levels, especially our very affordable and very low income individuals, has got to be a top priority for us. And lastly, I think we need to be making sure that we're investing more in healthcare services. We need to make sure that our health department is well funded. Our budget was a very tricky budget to deal with this year, but we have our first tranche of what some are calling Biden bucks. We're fortunate to have $97.5 million coming our way this year. I'm going to be fighting hard to make sure that is not only going towards housing, but also going to the critical services that the health department and others provide to ensure that folks out there who are unsheltered have access to the services that they desperately need. So there's just a few things that we're working on right now, in addition to the homeless task force that I'm fortunate enough to have the mayor appoint me to. We're doing some really, I think, good work there. My office has been dedicated to the issue of creating a strategic plan for how does the city address homelessness. So some good things happening, but a lot more work to do. And I think this is a testament to the dedication to this city is, I think, putting towards that. So thank you all again for being here, and thanks for standing with us in this rainy day.